Hello, dear youth, and welcome back to our series. I'm back with Antoinette, and today we are going to be talking about spiritual narcissism. This is a topic that is, I think, of vital importance in this day and age, and yet it's not spoken about much. But we will, once again, just coming from our own journeys, from our own experiences, and just sharing the little insight that we have and tips that we've acquired along the way. We hope that they'll be of some benefit to you that's listening in. So Antoinette, welcome back.
Hi, thank you.
So spiritual narcissism. Expand on that.
Well, yeah, it can be a touchy subject because you see it often, often enough, should I say, in life in general, within the spiritual community. I find I'm still, every time I'm surprised to see it because, like when you've been on the spiritual practice, you naturally, anyways, at some point, you start developing intuitive and psychic senses even. They're just as knowing, especially women, they just know. So to see spiritual narcissism pop up, it's like, my question is like, what's the point of even putting, like, to me, it's an act, right? What's the point of putting on the act? I like, these people can see you, but obviously not everyone, right?
Well, I think that the problem with narcissism is that people often have a slight indication that there's red flags, but it's like trauma bonding, with the person. And, women and men alike experience it mostly in relationships or, between parent and child. And I think that replays then when it comes to the spiritual community, because it's usually like a mentor or it's somebody close to you, that you've been training with or working with, but is, slightly more advanced, or you're usually in the vulnerable position. And I think that's what I think shocked me the most about the spiritual world and spiritual communities in general. Because you go into this path to heal. Often because you've already experienced some level of trauma, or you've come out of bad relationships, or you've come out of bad situations, or whatever has happened in your life that's kind of propelled you onto this path, and your focus is on healing. And it's so easy using certain terminology and certain keywords to create this kind of guise of a very safe environment to be in and to heal in and to develop in. And I think it takes time, as you said, like with time on your path, you can identify it, and your little spidey senses started to kick in, and you start to identify these people. But when you are just embarking on your healing journey, it's so easy to fall into that trap because you're vulnerable, and narcissists prey on the vulnerable.
Yeah.
They don't go for the strong people who are fully attentive to their surroundings and, able to tune into these things and stand on their own 2 feet fully. They see the vulnerability, or they'll search, they'll wait, and they'll wait until they find it, and then they'll go for it.
Yeah.
And so the spiritual community and spiritual practice actually is a perfect breeding ground. It's a perfect playground, I should say, and a breeding ground, but it's a perfect playground for narcissists.
It's really, in a way, it's like selling you the dream. If you come to me and I'll do these things, these energy readings or whatever it is, and you can find the Holy Grail kind of thing, or you'll, I don't know, be cured, right? And I suppose in the past, like traditionally, we would have had leaders, spiritual leaders, priests, shamans, the medicine woman, and it's like we almost always, in a way, outsourced the healing, aspect of, like, we wanted to heal, but we had to have someone else do it for us, kind of thing. And we're at the point now that if we don't do the work ourselves, we're never going to be better, healthier, more whole. And yes, like when you are in a vulnerable state, when you have trauma, or you have especially a very physical or mental or emotional condition, is very intrusive in your life, then you do get desperate, and you do look for miracles. And it's kind of a shame, that people
come to these gurus, and they often have a lot of marketing behind them. There's often a team of people working behind them as well to promote them, and they have existing students who promote them, and so it can be hard, I think, to discern at the beginning, because they seem so accomplished, and this again feeds into their whole thing, because they can appear as holier than thou, and having such a divine connection to source and such a divine connection to spirit, and for you to grow on your path, really you need them. You need them to feed you that information. You need them to be that channel for you to, channel down that healing energy, or to initiate you, or to pass on all of these healing qualities. And as you journey, and as we know now, at this stage of our path, I mean, a lot of the skills they're not gifted to you. You discover them through your healing journey that you embark on by yourself, that when you do the work, as you say, when you go and take on that task of doing the work yourself and taking charge of your own healing journey, and you build the skills, and you receive the gifts, through that, and the skills, and to help others. But it's presented in a very nice box, and I think it's appealing for people, because we live in a time where everything is instant. Social media is king. We receive so much information. We're bombarded with so much information. Everything is instant. If we want something, it's instant. So this concept of having to spend years healing is just not appealing to people. Whereas if you can do it in a really short space of time, or if this person can come in and help you and just propel you to, on your ascension path, then people will go for it. It's like, why do people drink bottled water instead of tap water? And I think that we're conditioned to fall for that. I think that, there is the element of discernment, and there's the element of, we're vulnerable because, we're healing, but then we're also conditioned to be attracted to that.
It makes me think about, when you're a kid, and as a child, you do need a parent, you do need a guardian, you do need people to show you, teach you things. But at some point, usually in your teens, and some people later on in life, in the 20s, and some even in the 30s, they figure out, what, this isn't working for me. I'm an individual. I want to do it my way. Well, I want to figure it out for myself, right? At that point where you start noticing, okay, this person that I was learning, maybe I was getting, a lot of good lessons or good skills. You know what? They're also human. They also got faults and flaws, and to me, it's like everybody has their faults and flaws. It's the critical thing is, it's when people deliberately and continually prey on people and take advantage. That's the not good, not the unsavory part of it, right?
Yeah, and it happens all too often. And I've met people who have, it's different when you're experiencing it and going through it, and you realize maybe years later what's going on. But when you're kind of past that initial stage of healing and you meet people who are, you know, at their first stage in that vulnerable place, it's scary sometimes. Sometimes the stories that they tell, or, you know, what gets me is the push to externalize trauma. And then the second stage is, but I will help you with that. I will take that away from you. Like, you know, entities. Like, I know that there are entities, you know, we depending on how we resonate and depending what's happening within us, there are energies around us that can interact with us. And if we are going through a really difficult time, then we can attract low energy beings. But sometimes the beings that we're interacting with are our trauma. There are aspects of ourselves that are manifesting in these, you know, ugly forms. And this is the part that gets me sometimes, is telling somebody in that moment where they are deep in process that no, actually, it's not your trauma. It's this being that has been sent to you, or that you have picked up, you know, from somewhere else, completely dissociating the trauma from the person, and then making the person enter into fear, because now not only are they experiencing this trauma that's still in their body, but now they've also got these things that are attacking them from the outside that they apparently have no control over. But it's okay, because I'm experienced, I can take them off you. And that gets me every time.
It's I mean, in the tribal sense, in the cultural sense, that's how the shamans used to do it, right? That's how the priests used to do it. I think because we were in sort of a dark, if you want to call it an age, where we were shrouded, our vision, our clarity wasn't there. We weren't connected like how many of us are now. You know, there was way fewer people connected. So yes, when you have, you know, a small grouping of people that can channel, can heal, then there's automatically going to be a monopoly. Automatically you can start making money. But that's no longer the case anymore. You know, so many of us are awakening, and so many of us are starting to develop these spiritual gifts and develop ourselves on this ascension path. And it's amazing, the kids nowadays, like what comes out of their mouth and what insights, like that way of only one shaman for the village is gone kind of thing. You know, only one medicine person for the village those days are gone.
Yeah. But our needs are also different now.
Yeah.
And this is the thing, it's about being able to move with the times and being able to respond. I mean, you can still counsel people, you can still guide people, you can still support them in a way that's in alignment with the needs of our modern society, just like the shamans in the past. For us, it's ancient teachings. For us, it's ancient ways. But for them, they were just meeting the needs of their modern community and the needs of the people. And as you say, that was what was needed at the time. But I feel like now there's a different intent behind that it's not coming from that place of, okay, well, we have those gifts and a lot of people are not there yet, so we can help them. Whereas now it's like, no, I'm going to use this to be able to prey on vulnerable, or to keep them under my control, to keep them, you know, near me for longer. You know, it's a form of entrapment and disempowerment, and I think that's the difference. There's the difference of intent is massive when we compare what the ancient shamans would do to what's being done today.
Yeah, definitely. It's almost like, to me, I'd let me just say it, it's parasitic. You know, when you're keeping the people, like, if you want to say, like, fish in a bucket. All your students are the fish in the bucket, and you keep on feeding them bread, and they're fighting to get out of the bucket, and you keep on telling them, no, you're okay. Here's a piece of bread. You'll be okay. As soon as you do this, then you'll get out. And then they want to keep the students in the bucket because that's their source of income, and their source of recognition, their source of value, being valued. Yeah. And I can see why some people would do that. It's just that we don't need that anymore. A lot of people are saying, you know what, this isn't working anymore, like in the church sense. Yeah. The traditional, well, not, I don't know if you want to call it traditional, but in the Catholic sense, it's changing so rapidly. If you look at the Catholic Church, say 30 years ago to now, it's rapidly changing.
Yes. Well, people are thinking freer, as you mentioned. The children now coming up are just so much more awake, so much more kind of enlightened and aware. And even, I have to mention, because just recently my nephew even came to me. He was like, you know what NASA just released? And I'm like, no, what? They're like the sound. They have a recording from a sound of a black hole, and he was able to play it for me. And I was like, it's so connected. It's like, of course they understand the cosmic energies and the cosmic realm so much easier, and with technology as well, and with the cloud, and uploading things to the cloud, and the way that technology works now, it's so much easier for them to comprehend how spirituality works. It just makes more sense to them. And we don't need, as you say, those old archaic structures that were maybe beneficial years ago, but we've moved past them now.
Yeah. Yeah. And they were working in those times, and it did work because the roles were traditional, pastor, parishioners, shaman, the rest of the village kind of thing. It was that kind of clear cut, but now things are not as clear cut, and you can experience whatever path you want.
Yeah, because we are moving through times of change, and when we meet major times of change as a collective, like as on a global level, or even on a national level or community level, there's a need to respond, and there's a need to respond with ways that haven't been used before to meet changes and to meet the demands and to meet the needs of the community. So we have to think outside the box, and I think that that's where the structures are breaking away. It's not necessarily solely due to the fact that they're flawed or inherently wrong. It's because the needs are different, and we're moving into different times, and as a result we need to think differently. And so even as somebody who's on their spiritual path, or even starting out, you kind of start out with that. It's like you have to be observant, you have to be independent to an extent, or more independent than you would have needed to be before on your journey, because it's really important that you have your own skills, and that you can discern, that you can connect by yourself, that you can have that connection to your higher self, that you can trust yourself, that you can know yourself, so that you will know how to respond adequately, to the challenges that you're facing in your life. And so, the organized religion isn't as strong now as it was back in the day, because the challenges require different responses.
Yeah.
It's really important for us to kind of keep that in mind as we journey, and as we continue to grow and develop and advance as best we can, that we are facing into changing times, challenging times, and times that need unique responses.
And also the other thing about the narcissists in general, whether they're spiritual or not, we learn from them. They teach us how to stand up on our own 2 feet, how to be, vocal when we overcome, being a victim, how to speak up for ourselves, how to do things and value ourselves, put ourselves first, So they all have a purpose, all of it. Yeah. The good, bad, indifferent, all of it.
That's a positive slant to take. Yeah, after they rip us apart and break us down, they teach us to stand up again.
They do. Well, the way I see it is, we, as like, if you want to, the victim actually has that opportunity to change things for themselves. You want to call it that, the victim. If it wasn't for this person perpetrating whatever on them, they wouldn't be given those lessons.
Absolutely.
But at the same time, we're at the point now we don't have to go through the suffering. We can learn through our own value systems. We can learn from others, right?
Yes.
We don't have to keep on suffering.
Yeah, and that's a really, really good point to end up on, because the value systems, absolutely, learning each value and integrating each value is a journey in itself and brings its own challenges and brings its own healing. So yes, by focusing on values and learning to integrate the values within us, as you said, we can learn through that way. We don't have to learn through the suffering, and we don't have to learn through others interfering in our health or in our happiness and our well-being in any aspect of our journey. So value-based learning.
Yeah, values inform a lot. It's a good place to start. And if we haven't yet developed our values, it's a good time to start.
Absolutely. The time is now.
Yeah.
Thank you, Antoinette.
No, pleasure.
We will see you next time.